Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. We'll give everyone a minute to join before we begin today. All right, we'll go ahead and get things started here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today and for our webinar on design and estimating in Fieldwire. My name is Pranati Gumpa, and I'm a construction success manager here at Fieldwire. Before we begin, I would like to address a few housekeeping items. To ensure a smooth session, attendees will be muted, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions you might have in the Q&A panel. And we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We'll try our best to answer as many questions as we can, but for any questions we don't get to, our experts will reach out to you directly. And we also have some poll questions during the webinar for you to participate in. So please feel free to select your answers when the questions pop up. Additionally, we have a 5 questions short survey at the end of the webinar. We would really appreciate it if you could fill that out. The survey really helps us to determine the usefulness of the content we deliver and also helps us to plan for any future webinars we have. Awesome. So before we dive into the webinar, please take a moment to fill out the poll question so that we can learn a little bit more about you. So just a quick question, what type of webinar do you work for? Sorry, what type of company do you work for? Just take a minute and put in your answer. Thank you all for that. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our construction success managers, Kendra Sutherland and Brent Collins. After you, Kendra.
Thank you, Pranati. So yes, as Pranati mentioned, I'm Kendra Sutherland. I've been a construction success manager here at Fieldwire for 3.5 years. And I came to Fieldwire after a decade of working in construction, starting out in the field, in landscaping, and then working as an estimator, a project coordinator, and a project engineer for a GC in San Francisco doing commercial TI. So I'm excited for today's topic because as an estimator, I really saw how impactful an estimate was for the overall success of a project. And today we're going to show you how teams can use Fieldwire in the estimating phase to help you produce more thorough and well-planned estimates. To do this, I'm joined by my colleague, Brent. Brent, please tell us a bit about your background and why you wanted to share these workflows on estimating.
Yeah, thanks, Kendra. Hey, everyone. My name is Brent Collins. I'm also a construction success manager here at Fieldwire. Been here about 2 years, and before coming over here, I spent over a decade in the construction industry, mostly in the commercial space, working for general contractors like Granite Construction, Whiting Turner, and a smaller general contractor up in Northern California. Worked my way up from PE to PM, and most of the companies that I worked at, the PMs and PEs were also the estimators. So definitely have some experience here, and I wanted to share these workflows because I have customers that swear by them, and because I truly believe that they can help protect companies during the pre-construction phase and other pricing scenarios.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing these critical workflows with the construction industry today. For today's agenda, we're going to start out with a quick overview of what Fieldwire is, and then we'll jump into a live demo of Brent's customer's pre-con coordination workflow. And then I'll show you some more traditional estimating workflows and how they can be done all within Fieldwire. Then, as Pranathi mentioned, we do have a Q&A session, but again, feel free to put any questions in the chat throughout the webinar. Now, for a quick overview of the software, for those of you that are new to Fieldwire, Fieldwire is an application that allows you to access your project documents from any web browser or mobile device. Through our tasks and our forms tools, we allow you to coordinate and manage work that can be shared with your project stakeholders through the form of reports, PDF reports, or CSV reports that let you share the progress on your project or your project's needs. So that's just a quick overview of the software. And during today's webinar, we're going to mainly be focusing on 3 of the tools that Fieldwire offers: plans, tasks, and RFIs. So we'll be touching on those tools mainly, but you'll of course see how we use some of the other ones as well. Now, before we jump into a live demo, we have a quick poll question to see if any of you who use Fieldwire, if you've used them for any of your pre-construction activities before. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating in that. So now we'll jump into, Brent, your workflows. If you wouldn't mind just sort of setting the scene and letting us know, when do you usually see these workflows utilized and who usually uses them?
Yeah, good question. So mostly we want to leverage these workflows as soon as we receive those bid packages from the owner or from the designers regarding the projects that we're interested in bidding rather. So during the pre-construction and estimating process. However, all projects aren't the same. We have owners that add scope and design build projects that we often encounter. So these workflows we're about to present are also relevant even after we break ground.
Got it. And which teams do you usually see?
Yeah, so a whole mixed bag. So internally, we have our estimators, our pre-construction managers, PMs, project engineers, but we can also invite our superintendents as well. So even at a smaller company, when I was working in the industry, I would still have the superintendent, take a look at a set of drawings just to get a second set of eyes on it. So yeah, but if you have a more collaborative project like a design build project, you can bring in your pre-selected subcontractors and even your designers on the platform as well.
Got it. So pretty much the whole project team could get involved.
Absolutely.
And what value have these workflows provided to the teams that you work with?
Well, first and foremost, you have a centralized location for constructability reviews and tracking and communicating potential issues like scope gaps and scope creep using the plans module. So again, even at a smaller GC, I would send plans over to a superintendent, but they might be on another job site that's 60 miles away. So having your bid documents on Fieldwire is going to allow your pre-construction team to be in the same arena, even if you're operating out of different locations. So that allows your team to access real-time information and comments regarding scope gaps and scope creep.
And just for everyone to be on the same page, can you just give us a quick high-level definition of what scope gap or scope creep is?
Yeah, so a scope gap is, so it's potentially an area where maybe the design isn't as, as robust as it should be. You could miss something very integral to the project in your bid. So, and then scope creep is an area where multiple trades might provide the same material or the same services on a project, and you just want to make sure that you're not doubled up on your project or in your estimate.
Mm. And so can you show us a little bit like that collaborative environment that you see with all teams participating on the plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can hop into a plan sheet here, and as I'm going through my bid or as I'm going through the drawings and putting together all my different line items and putting together my subcontracts, I have a lot of different comments and tasks that are on the drawings that are notifying me of these potential scope gaps. So right here, I have a comment from my superintendent saying that the civil engineer is not showing any storm drain laterals for downspout locations at this building. So they left that comment here. It jumps out at me. I know that this is a potential issue. So if I have to ask a question, I can literally just create an RFI on the spot from a hyperlink, and I can submit this RFI directly from the Fieldwire platform. And this is great too, because I can submit this question to a particular email address. So the engineer or anybody that has to respond to this RFI does not have to be on the platform. All I have to do is put their email address in this field here, and Fieldwire is going to automatically send that RFI to that individual.
Mm. And then once you've identified, so like different teams can participate in identifying these scope gaps, what do you do to then make sure that this gets captured by the bid eventually?
Well, the comments are great and the RFIs are great as well, but I would really want to use our task feature to really capture these issues. And I'll show you why here in a second. But for those of you that aren't familiar with our task feature, usually our customers use this for field operations. And it's a tool that we can use to stay standardized for field operations and also track progress and issues as well. So over on the left-hand side, we have a lot of different content that we can provide. And on the right-hand side, we have our attributes so we can filter and report for these particular issues as the project progresses. But in this particular workflow, we are using our statuses here to track our scope gaps, scope creep, any add alternates or value engineering efforts as well that we want to try and capture on the plans. And then we have our two closed statuses here. So we have red, orange, and yellow that are open, and then we have green and blue that are closed. And these closed statuses are, scope that's captured in the subcontract or the quote, or that these potential scope gaps are actually captured and reflected in our budget.
Mm. Can you walk us through an example of a scope gap that, from identification through to captured in the bid?
Of course. I'm going to show two different scenarios here, one for a scope gap and another one for scope creep. And I selected these examples because I've actually been burned by this in the past. So in California, where I've spent the majority of my career, you have to tie your downspouts into the site storm drain, or at least in the area that I've been working. So I can see that this detail does not reflect that. So boom, right there. I feel like this is a potential scope gap, something that I've personally been burned by before. So I create a task here and I notify myself and my project team that the downspouts need to be tied into the storm drain. So I created a checklist here to ensure that the plumber includes the downspout to lateral connections, a total of 15. So I can see that these aren't checked off and the status is still in scope gap. So I know that this is still an open item and potentially a scope gap on my particular proposal. But I'm also not done yet because this also affects the civil contractor. So on the civil side of things, I can go into my grading or utility plan, and I can go and I can look at the storm drain. Remember that my superintendent provided a comment saying that the laterals weren't installed or weren't reflected in the drawings. So I can also create a task on the civil drawings, reminding me that the civil sub has Ys and laterals to 5 feet outside of the building for 15 locations. Taking this a little bit further, I can also link those two tasks together. Create that relationship here. So no matter which sheet I'm looking at, I'm always going to be reminded of the other trades that are affected by this potential scope gap. So now these are all linked together.
Got it. So you've got a single task identifying the scope gap, but you've linked both those tasks for each scope of work to each other so that anytime you look at one, you see the other.
Correct. Because as you know, one issue in construction can lead to multiple issues across different scopes.
Amazing. What about scope creep? Do you have any examples for that?
I do. One thing that used to confuse me being in the industry is sheet metal and sheet metal details. So, who has the parapet cap? Usually the roofer, but if we have a sheet metal contractor on the project providing flashing and reglets for all the window and door locations, then you could have some scope creep there. So what I did is I created a task on the roofing or wall section details. And again, I just reminded myself that the parapet cap is going to belong to the roofer and the window flashing is going to belong to our window flashing and reglets are going to fall into the sheet metal contractor's scope.
So you can just check off those boxes as you make sure that they have those in their bids.
Correct. So I just check those off, make sure that the subcontractors have these in their proposal. And then once it's captured in the budget, I can go ahead and verify that task. And from a very high level, I can see that this is already addressed. It's light blue, it's closed, it has that check mark, it's ironclad. I know that that's in my budget now.
Amazing. Yeah, I love, there's just so many moving parts that you have to keep track during the bid preparation. I think this really highlights some ways that you can connect all those disparate parties. But then how do you communicate this to these multiple parties, whether they're on Fieldwire or not, but they're implicated in these issues?
Yeah, if they're on Fieldwire, I can literally assign this to the project manager for the plumbing contractors. So maybe we have pre-selected subcontractors during a design build project, or if we have multiple subcontractors that are bidding this job, we can actually email these out directly in PDF form to individuals that are even off the platform. Additionally, we can create task reports. We can create task reports by category, by trade, and these task reports can be automatically emailed to external users daily, weekly, or monthly. So you're constantly sending reminders and updated updated information and updated issues to your bidders on a regular cadence. And
Plus you,
these reports are going to show your updated checklists and a lot of different information here.
plus you have a paper trail too.
Plus we have a paper trail, correct. And we can also export these reports into a CSV file. So if you need to extract any information out of those tasks to put into your budget, you can do so.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, I love just the shared environment and then sharing this outside externally if necessary. What about drawing updates? You know, in the bid process, you can sometimes be sent a new revision. How do you handle?
Yeah, so anytime you get a bulletin or an addendum during the bid process, you just upload the multi-page PDF document into Fieldwire just like you would at any other time. Fieldwire is going to automatically slip sheet those drawings for you, and the newest version is actually going to be automatically the top layer. So any of your markups or your tasks that were on previous version sets will automatically migrate to the new layer. Additionally, what we can do is we can compare my IFC drawings to my 100% DD to see if there are any changes. So let me show you how to do that. I just come down here to the compare feature, and my IFC is going to be in blue, my old drawing is going to be in red. I overlay those two drawings, I hit the compare feature, and I can zoom in and I can see that the architect added, a couple of walls here, creating 3 rooms instead of just one big room in this library room that you see here. So I can see from a very high level that that the architect did not cloud these drawings. So I went ahead and used Fieldwire's markup features to cloud this area. And then I created a task here that tracks all of the potentially missed scope. And again, I have my related tasks for the other design disciplines like HVAC, electrical, and ceilings.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brent, for showing these workflows and how they've worked successfully for some of our largest customers. I think we can see like coordinating these potential scope gaps, scope creeps on Fieldwire just makes it incredibly easy for the entire team, from the estimator to the foreman, to just ensure that nothing is missed on the bid. And it can save thousands, if not hundreds of dollars for those companies, I imagine.
Absolutely. One of my largest customers uses this predominantly for pre-construction all over across the US, and it definitely pays for itself.
Thanks again. We now have a poll question to see if you're currently using Fieldwire for takeoffs, and then we'll jump into the more traditional estimating workflows. Okay, so now we're going to shift gears and look at some of the more traditional estimating workflows, from site walks to takeoffs. And just starting off with the site walk, that's usually how an estimate can get going. And one of the most powerful aspects, I think we can agree, is Fieldwire's field access. So I think one of the best ways to leverage Fieldwire in the estimating phase is for the site walk. And as you know, site walks can be difficult to get to. It takes time, and you usually want to get in as fast as possible and get out as fast as possible. So making sure you take accurate notes can really influence the accuracy of your bids. So one of the features I love to share for the site walk is definitely our hyperlinks tool with the photo pin. So in our hyperlinks tool, you have this photo pin icon. It's a camera, and you can simply place that on the drawing. And once you do that, you have photos that are pinned to the location on the site. So I have a photo pin here. I was able to take a picture of an existing door, and I even could mark it up with some pretty specific measurements that I needed to take, explaining what the measurement was from jam to jam, and I can get some nice markups on it. Information that can be challenging to communicate on a 2D plan. So I love using our photos tool with the markups on the photo tool. If you can't make it to the site, another useful feature with our photo markups is the 360 photos. So if you can send someone if you maybe purchase a 360 camera and you send someone who has a little more time on their hands, maybe a newer employee that's newer to the industry, you can send them to maybe take 360 photos of the site during the site walk, and then you can reference those back at your office when you're preparing the bid, and you never forget anything because you've got that 360 replica of the site available to you throughout the bid process. So photo pin icons during the site walk is a great way to leverage Fieldwire's field capacities. And then if you get asked while you're on site, oh, we're going to need to replace all the existing outlets with GFCIs. Well, who really knows how many existing outlets there are? If that information is not provided, you may need to get a quick count while you're on site. And our markup symbols offers a really fast way to get a quick count, get a markup and data of the existing site onto a plan that can then be incorporated into the bid later, counted later using our some other tools I'll show you. So I can pull this electrical symbols, grab the duplex receptacle, the GFCI symbol, and go ahead and mark that on the plan everywhere that I need GFCIs at all existing outlets. So those are some quick tools that are available to you. We have other markup tools, but I think on the site walks, just getting those notes can really be helpful. Once you complete the site walk, of course, you come back to the office and you need to actually prepare the bid. You're going to need true counts of everything and even potentially linear takeoffs. So I'm going to show you some of the ways you can achieve that on Fieldwire. So one of the first ways I see customers utilize and achieve counts is through our tasks feature. And essentially they set up a category for that element of the project, and then they're able to create counts of those elements on the project so that they can quickly see how many, for instance, AAA1 fine light fixtures I have on the plan. So I've got 24 on this sheet and 1 on this sheet. And then I can also see for hollow metal doors, I've got 23 on this plan here, and I can even see where those doors are located. So for achieving these counts, what you can do is actually, I'll head to the electrical plan and show you on the fine lights. You can first create the category of the element. So here I created AA1 fine light, that's what this fixture is. Then I engage the category and I create a task, and that task will now have that category. So with this fine light, I went ahead and I added a couple other elements that were useful to me using our custom task attributes. So I also included the voltage as well as the watts of this fixture and the linear feet of each of these fixtures, so that later for my bid, I'm able to quickly see how much power we're going to need to power these fixtures. So I create that task with all the elements I want in the right category, potentially on the right floor, everything like that. And then I just right click that task and I can duplicate that task. And while I hold shift, it allows me to duplicate the task more than just one time. So then I'm just click, 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 clicking away for all my AA1 fixtures. So that's a really fast way to be able to create multiple tasks at once for counting certain elements. But you can also leverage our copy paste feature by selecting the tasks using our multi-select tool here on the toolbar. I can then right click those tasks and copy and paste them onto this plan. If I have multiple lights in the same configuration, or I can copy it to another sheet. As I did on this plan here, I just copied all of them onto this sheet. So that's how you can achieve some counts quickly. And then finally, if you want to do linear takeoffs, we also offer measurements with linear takeoffs, multi-line measurements, and area takeoffs. So if I go to my irrigation plan south, right here, you can see I've done a number of area takeoffs to correspond to the drip areas and the amount of drip that's required in those areas. And then I also have my spray areas respectively. And then I also did some multi-line measurements for different size piping that I'm going to require. So you can use the different colors for different size piping. I can take the multi-line tool and I can choose maybe green if I want a 1-inch pipe for this spray area. And then I can also do a multi-line measurement of the same size piping. So those are multi-lines, lines, and areas. And then if you have a symbol or an element on the project that you don't have a markup symbol for, you can actually use text to create your own custom identifier. So here we have a hose bib, and this hose bib requires, let's see, oh, this one here. This hose bib requires detail 3, and on that detail, it shows quite a few elements. It's a recessed hose bib, and so it gives me all the different components that I'm going to need for this hose bib installation. And so I can price all that out, put all these components together, but the next thing I need is a count of how many times that instance of hose bib occurs. So what I can do, since we don't really have a symbol for that, 3 hose bib, recessed hose bib necessarily, and maybe I don't want to pick a symbol that exists, I can just use text and create a text box here. And then I can right click that, or actually I can grab the multi-select tool and I can click the option button. And you notice how my cursor changes to copy. This then allows me to copy the text multiple times. So that's how you can copy symbols or text multiple times on a project using the option key with this multi-select tool. So those are some ways to use our markups features to achieve some of your counts and takeoffs, but then you need to be able to export this into the format of your bid. So you need these counts exported. What you can do is export a markup summary of just one sheet, or I can also export a markup summary for the entire project. So I go to select all plans and do export markup summary when I've completed all of my counts on the project and takeoffs. And this would be the example of what you would receive when you export that markup summary for just a single sheet. This is the AA1 fine lights. I can get a count of this, and I can also see my wattage and the linear feet, so I can do a quick calculation for the total wattage that's going to be used for all of these lights on that floor and figure out what size panel and how many circuits we're going to need. I can also then export the markup summary for the whole project. And here I can see all my irrigation takeoffs, my distance measurements, and get the totals for those. If I want to filter this for certain markups, I can filter it. And then I can also see my receptacles that I captured from my site walk. So everything can be exported and then incorporated into your bid right from here. So from the site walk to collaborating with all of stakeholders, as Brent showed you, we want to help you ensure that you have a sound bid. So Fieldwire continues to add functionality that helps you collaborate and coordinate your work from pre-con to closeout, and we continue to build out more features. So hopefully you learned something today, but we now have some time for some questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Kendra and Brent, for going over these workflows. Before we dig into the questions, I just have one last poll question for you all. And there we go. Just want to understand, how do you guys like this workflows? Awesome. Going back to the questions, Kendra, we have a couple of questions about how do you export this list? Can you actually show how you exported the CSV?
Yeah, so the first question is just, do you want the markups from one plan? If that's the case, you simply go to that one sheet and you click on the Actions button, and there is an option to export markup summary. And that is going to send you the CSV file for just that sheet. If you want to export the markup summaries for multiple sheets, you can select multiple or the entire plan set, and you can export markup summary from there as well.
Awesome. And if you go to the markup summary, you can actually look at all your text, your 3HBs. You can filter them, you can count them, and also you can count all the different, or add up all the different measurements that you have, right?
Yeah, and you can put a filter on, and you can even filter to different sheet versions. So if you did get a revision and you did takeoffs the first time around, and now you want to compare them against some added takeoffs that you had to add now that there was a revision, you can see that comparison. But yeah, you can filter. I'll just show you, like, if we want to filter to those hose bibs that I was telling you about for the text, I can select those, and now I can sort it by the different types. So I see I have two, and this is a small quantity, but you know, on a larger project, you may have multiple sheets with that.
Awesome. Brent, the next question is for you. Can you basically get into a little bit of detail about how you've exported the tasks that you've created for your scope gaps and scope creeps for people who are not on Fieldwire, both the PDFs and the CSVs?
Yeah, absolutely. So should I go ahead and share my screen real quick?
Sure. Just give me a second. Awesome.
Cool. Can you guys see my Fieldwire screen? Sorry, not the, okay, cool. I think we're good. Awesome. So if I just go to the main task module here and go up to generate reports, I can create a new report. And essentially, let me just open up my webinar report that I created here. There we go. So this window will pop up and we have an option to do a summary, detailed report, or CSV. So I'm going to stay on detailed report here. I can create a report specific to a particular category. So let's say I created one for my plumbing subcontractor. So only my plumbing category tasks will show up in this report now. And then I can put in the subcontractor's email address here and schedule that to be sent on a weekly, daily, weekly, or monthly basis. So I'm just gonna, right here, just send them a report on Monday. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, they will have an email with a detailed report detailing all of the different scope gaps and scope creep issues that we've identified on the plans.
Awesome, thank you for that. The next question is there a way to overlay electrical plans over architectural plans? Just overlaying different kinds of plans.
Yes, there is. Sorry, I'm having some connection issues here.
I can show.
Yeah, let me switch the presenter.
Okay. Yeah, you can compare any two drawings. I could select this drawing in the architectural set and then come down to one of the electrical drawings. And I can then click the actions menu and click compare. So I can compare in that way where I'm comparing these two drawings. You also, if you're on the drawing itself, you can, let's say you're looking at this drawing here, and then I realize I need to see what the electrical shows the way Brent showed it. You can come here to compare, and then I can search for the electrical drawing that I want to show.
Yeah.
And then I can compare from here as well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
this is really helpful for overlaying an architectural floor plan with a reflected ceiling plan as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my customers use that.
Awesome, thank you. Kendra, this question is for you. What is the key command to duplicate objects or text fields?
So two options. So for duplicating tasks, it's shift. But then if you're going to use this multi-select tool to select a symbol, you can actually duplicate that symbol by clicking option. That's on a Mac. On a Windows, it might be, I think it's option or control, but you'll know it's the right one. I'm pretty sure it's option, actually. It's not control. It might be alt. Is it
Alt,
option?
yes.
Alt.
Yes.
Okay. Alt on Windows, option on Mac. And you'll know it's the right key because when you hover your mouse on the symbol, when it's selected using this cursor multi-select tool, you'll get this symbol with the two cursors on top of each other, indicating that you now can copy these, which can be useful if you resize one of these symbols. So if I move and resize this symbol here, I can rotate it. So I can rotate it and also make it larger. And now that I've changed this symbol, I may want to duplicate that one without redo that.
Yeah, so I think the key to change it or like duplicate it on your Windows would be Alt. All of us actually use Mac, so we're more well versed with the option, but I think it's either Alt or Control.
Yeah, I think Alt is probably it because Control is like our command, but
Exactly. Awesome. So going back to the overlay, can you slide the overlay plans so that they line up?
yes. So if I compare two drawings, there is a reflected ceiling plan for this.
Yeah, just overlay any two drawings.
So this you can see they're slightly off. So I can move them in this screen when it says align sheets.
Awesome. Awesome. That's pretty much with the time. Thank you everyone for attending today, and I hope this session was useful. We would really appreciate it if you can stay on for a couple of minutes and fill in the survey questions that we have. Thank you again, everyone. Thanks, Kendra. Thanks, Brent. Have a good day.
Thank you, Pranathi.
Thank you.